where it is tending to perforation, in those emergency setting, we have to relieve the distension of the abdomen. In those selected cases, we create a specific type of stoma, which is called a decompressing stoma. In those cases, it can be three types. It can be a blowhole cecostomy, it can be a tube cecostomy, or it can be a loop colostomy. In this regard,
can anyone
yes,
tell what is the specific circumstance where you would probably need a cecostomy? Anybody from the students? Is Munishekar there? Ajit? Hello? Is Ajit there?
Yes, sir.
yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
he's
I'm
there.
here, sir.
Can you name a circumstance where you have to do a cecostomy if the patient is moribund and you can't operate on them?
No, sir.
Saurav, can you tell?
So in a patient with a distal obstruction, sir,
What is that called?
um,
A closed loop
obstruction. Yes,
closed loop obstruction where the cecum will be very, very dilated, and if the patient is not in a condition where to operate, then you may have to resort to a tube cecostomy or something like that to tide over the crisis and then get the patient a bit better before you do anything definitive.
Yes.
And the other circumstance will be when the patient has come to you with a large bowel obstruction where there is significant dilatation of the bowel, then you do what is called as an on-table lavage. So when you do an on-table lavage, you use the appendix as the entry point for the Foley's catheter to do the lavage. And then once you have finished with that, you can actually leave that as it is as a cecostomy and then take it out once the patient is better. So those are the two specific instances to do cecostomy.
Yes, sir. So
I think Dr. Lakshman is on.
Yes, sir. Sir has joined, sir.
So I'll let him now moderate the thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir,
Please
good
carry
evening,
on.
sir.
Good evening. I'm sorry I was a little late. Yeah. Thank you. Please carry on. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the point why I introduced this term in this topic was that while I be discussing about stomas, we always it can sometimes be used for putting in materials also, but in decompressing stoma, it is mainly to relieve the obstruction. So in this regard, a tube cecostomy, what we do is that we take a transverse incision of 4 to 6 centimeters over the most dilated part of the intestine, and after opening, we take a purse string suture around the cecal wall. After that, we perforate and put a Mallicoat catheter inside, and then the purse string suture is tightened, and the tube is then brought out through the abdominal wall and secured. The main disadvantage with the tube cecostomy is that it can be blocked with feces, and then it stops functioning. So coming to the heading of our discussion today, the ileostomy, which is a specific opening constructed between the small intestine and the abdominal wall. It is usually done by using a distal segment of the ileum, but sometimes a proximal segment of the intestine can also be used. And the effluent in case of ileostomy, as I had mentioned before, is mainly liquid. So indications, it can, in case of end ileostomy, it is usually a permanent stoma that is being constructed. In elective setting, when we do a proctocolectomy for an inflammatory bowel disease, or in case of patients with familial adenomatous polyposis, it can be temporary in an emergency setting where a subtotal colectomy with an end ileostomy is done, and that is in cases of fulminant or perforated ulcerative colitis. In cases of distal obstruction of large bowel, where a cecum is not viable or it is already perforated. After a segmental resection of small bowel where primary anastomosis is unsafe, that is in cases of perforated Crohn's disease or thromboembolic bowel ischemia. In temporary end ileostomy, the distal bowel can be closed and left inside the abdomen, or it can be exteriorized as a mucous fistula. In case of loop ileostomy, in general, it is a temporary stoma. It can be revised via the stoma site 2 to 3 months after the formation. Its main purpose is to divert the fecal stream for the purpose of protecting a distal anastomosis after a low anterior resection or difficult anal sphincter repairs or complex perianal fistula procedures. What are the principles that we need to follow while creating an ileostomy?
Saurabh, one sec.
Yes.
Before
Yes,
you progress, there's a question which asks, can we use tube cecostomy? It's going back to cecostomy.
Yes, sir.
Tube cecostomy when the base of the appendix is sloughed.
I don't know this answer, sir.
It depends on how much the base is sloughed. If you after you have to take out the sloughed tissue, you cannot put sutures through a sloughed tissue. After you resect it, if the hole in the cecum that remains after the removal of the devitalized tissue is not very big and it can be snugly closed around a malicose, for example, then you can do a tube cecostomy. If it is very big, then you have either the choice of actually suturing it, because you're suturing healthy tissue, there is no problem, or bringing out the whole of the cecum, like you do an ileostomy. The whole of the cecum can be brought out as a cecostomy, but it's not recommended. It is not recommended. Okay. Have I answered you, Pawan? Are you okay with that? Okay.
Pawan, you have to answer.
You have to answer. Are you okay with that?
Pawan Kumar, you have to unmute yourself and answer.
All right. No response.
Yes,
Please continue.
Yes, sir. So the principles for creating an ileostomy, we have to remember this, that ileostomy effluent is mainly liquid. It is frequently at alkaline pH and contains activated digested enzymes. The discharge is almost continuous, and it digests and excoriates skin. So in that sense, the location of the ileostomy should be predetermined before the surgery is undertaken. Even if there is no plans of putting an ileostomy during the surgery, we can plan ahead and at least mark the place where, just in case if an ileostomy is required, we know where we can access it. So the location must be chosen carefully before the surgery. It should avoid deep folds of fat, scars, bony prominences, inguinal folds, and waistline crease. Ideally, it should be taken at the tip of the fat mound in the abdomen. The site is chosen by drawing a vertical line through the umbilicus and the transverse line through the inferior margin of the umbilicus. The disc, the size of a stoma faceplate, that is around 8 centimeters in size, is applied over that location, and then the site is marked with an ink. The next thing that we need to do is that we have to bring the patient to an exaggerated sitting position and to see if any of the folds are coming in that place and whether it is disturbing that place. We turn the patient from side to side, check for adequacy in all the positions. While we take the patient inside the operating room, before we start scrubbing the abdomen, we should mark that after anesthesia, we have to mark that site, scratch it off with a fine needle, so that during the surgery, it is not that pen mark will go, so we'll know where it is. When an ileostomy is anticipated, the choice of abdominal incision is usually a left paramedian skin incision. Pre-operative visit by an ostomy visitor. This ostomy visitor internationally, there are specific people who will come and explain the patient and the attenders how what is the life after having an ostomy, how to manage an ostomy after it has been created, what are the complications that may present for an ostomy. Because we have to remember that we are permanently or temporarily giving an output of motions through an abdomen, which is always a shock for the patient or the attenders. So they have to be explained that it is not a dangerous thing. It can be managed with precautions, and they should not be worried about that, because in most cases, if you understand that ostomies will be done in malignant cases or in inflammatory bowel disease, where they will be required for a long duration of time, and they will not be happy having that there. So these topics of ostomy, how to manage it and how to keep it clean, how to what are the complications that may arise, how to manage the complication, they should be addressed to the patient pre-operative.
I'll stop you there for a sec.
Yes, sir.
There are 2 or 3 contentious statements you made, and I think that needs clarification.
Yes.
First of it, when you have indelible inks which do not get wiped off with your skin preparation, why would you make a scratch with a needle?
Okay. Okay.
Right. Can
So
I take a quick poll from Ravi Shankar, Mahesh, and other teachers? Shivram, what do you scratch the skin or you put a mark there?
We just put a mark, sir. We don't need to
Just
scratch
put a
the
mark,
skin.
sir. Never
Yeah.
scratched.
So scratching
never
the
done
needle
that.
is, it's not required.
Okay.
Second, to say that you need a left paramedian just because you're putting an ileostomy also is something which is contentious. Yes, I'm being more diplomatic than Ravi, but yeah, I think he's right. Ravi is right. Saying that is wrong. Okay. Please understand that midline incisions are standard now, and you do not need a paramedian just because you're doing a stoma. Okay, that is something.
Okay.
And you talked about internationally, we have a very healthy stoma society and a stoma therapist, a group of stoma therapists everywhere in India, including Bangalore. So your point is well taken that you need to have counseling about stoma pre-op, not after you create the stoma. But you don't have to go to UK or USA for that.
Yes.
You have people in Bangalore. You can get them, and you can actually get, when it's a planned operation, you can get them to meet patients who come as volunteers. Give these patients who are going to have a stoma in future, their potential or future patients, the patients who already are living with a stoma, come there and counsel them and give them a lot of confidence. Ravi.
Yeah, I think the word ostomy visitor is not proper. I don't know where you got that word from. They are called stoma therapists. And they are not only, they pre-operatively counsel them and help them, and they are there to help them even at home. So if there are any problems, they provide bags. If there are any situations which they need to address, they will go and address that at home. So they are actually extremely useful and probably a integral part of the whole surgical team. So if the stomas are going to be permanent or are they going to be there for a substantial period of time, you need to involve them pre-operatively so that the patient gets the support they need. And the second thing you need to know is that when patients are being sighted for the stoma therapists fit the bag filled with water at various positions to finally understand where exactly is the most comfortable and convenient position for the patient. So even that is done to simulate a stoma post-operatively. So they fill a stoma bag with water and then they fix it at various points to see which is the best place. So not only marking is done with all these exercises so that because having a stoma itself is quite damaging and probably traumatizing to the patient. If it is placed badly, then I think it's even worse. So everyone should take extreme care in placing the stoma properly and then creating it very well.
There are stoma societies which meet regularly, Saurav and other students. In fact, I have addressed them on a couple of occasions in the past. That society consists of surgeons, physicians who look after them, patients, and stoma therapists. All of them get together, meet once a year, and help them in all aspects of stoma therapy, including financial aspects. Please understand there are a variety of stoma bags available, appliances available, they're called appliances, available with various range in terms of cost. And in fact, surgeons will not know the range available and the costing many times. And so I heavily depend on a good stoma therapist to advise them about the most cost effective and the most comfortable appliance that they can apply, that they can use. Okay. So please understand that stoma is a substantial undertaking. and you have to involve the stoma therapist actively, starting from the preoperative phase. Please continue.
Yes. So this is what I mentioned before. The spout has to be coming out from the surface of the skin, so that the effluent that does not come in direct contact with the skin and directly flows into the device. So when I'll just describe about the steps of an end ileostomy. So the construction of ileostomy will begin in the early operative period. So when the colon is mobilized for colectomy, so we have to first mobilize the ileostomy. In this important term that we have to remember, that there is an embryonic fusion plane of the mesentery of the small intestine to the right posterior abdominal wall. The ileum can be elevated on this mesentery up to the duodenum, allowing extreme mobility so that we can bring it to any point where we want. It is important to preserve the most distal arcade of the vessel and the mesenteric tissue on the ileum at the segment of the intended ileostomy. This blood supply is prepared early in the post-operative period, so that if there is any question of any vascularity of the distal ileum, it will be known well before we start closing the abdomen. The preservation of the distal bit of the mesentery and fat on the ileum sometimes appear to act as a bulk of the it may appear like a bulk of tissue initially, but we have to remember that after some time, what will happen is that the mesentery will regress to some extent, and leaving only the intestinal part outside. So we don't have to worry too much whether we are bringing a large bulk of tissue towards the skin. So what we do is that we take a 3 centimeter disc of skin, which is excised. A longitudinal incision is approximately 3 to 4 centimeters long, is been made along all the layers, and it is retracted. In this regard, if a patient is too obese or in fatty patients, we can actually dissect off the fat and completely remove it off. The muscles are separated, and any vessels which are seen is ligated or coagulated. The size of the stoma opening should be approximately based on the estimated diameter of the intestine. There is a usual rule that 2-finger width can be followed. However, I'm not very confident whether this rule can be applied in all situations. If the abdominal wall is thick, the shape of the incision should, instead of being a circular one, it should be a pyramidal incision. The facial opening larger than the skin opening has to be done to accommodate the mesentery. The ileum brought through the abdominal wall to the indented length, usually about 5 to 6 centimeters away from the surface. The mesentery of the distal ileum should be sutured to the right abdominal wall. This again is a controversial term. Whether it is done or not depends on the individual choice of the surgeon. However, suturing of the mesentery to the lateral intestinal wall, there is no studies which has shown any difference that it prevents stoma retraction or anything. So whether you want to do it or not depends on the surgeon's choice. Then the abdomen is closed.
Saurav,
if the blood, yes sir.
This suturing, as you quite rightly say, is again a contentious issue. Not everybody does it.
Yes,
one of the reasons perhaps is for you to avoid retraction. Is there any other reason why you would close that lateral space?
Sir, to prevent internal herniation, sir.
Correct. You can theoretically have internal herniation, but as you rightly said, there's no clear evidence. All right, go on. So,
before we, if the blood supply of the stoma is in question, the ileum should be retracted even more till we get a healthy, bright pink color stoma. The next objective is to make it protruding. So how will we do it?
Sorry to interrupt again. The word is not retraction. Retraction actually means the ileal loop going back into the abdomen. So if there is a stoma and if you think that the stoma is looking ischemic, you have to pull it out further.
Yes, sir.
Resect a further length of the ileum, terminal ileum. Make sure that the edges are bleeding well and that part that you're bringing out is not ischemic, and then fashion your stoma.
Okay, sir.
Okay, go on.
Yes, sir. So we'll take a absorbable suture material. the first stitch has to be taken through at the end of the stoma opening. It will be a full thickness bite. Then we have to go towards the point of the ileum where it will be at the base, and we have to take a seromuscular bite there, and then take the next bite through the dermis. This is in total of 8 bites can be taken, 4 in each corner and then 4 in between. And after the stoma has after the sutures have been taken, when we tighten it, the stoma should evert, and after the stoma is completed, the ileostomy appliance is applied.
Saurav,
Yes, sir.
is there any other method of achieving a good spout?
Sir, I only know this method, sir.
You can use gentle Babcock's forceps and put one Babcock forceps at the end of the stoma, and then
Okay, sir.
where you want the spout to happen, maybe 3 or 4 centimeters down line, you put another Babcock's and gently pull that up, and at the same time evert the other one where you put it on the end of the stoma, and that will also create the spout. But that can be only done in a situation where the bowel is not edematous. If it is edematous, then it becomes difficult to do that.
Okay.
I would add to that even if you evert it that way, the way you fix that and make sure that it remains everted is by the kind of suturing that you have described.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Go on.
Yes. In case of loop ileostomy, the stoma is constructed with both the diversion of the intestinal flow and the decompression of the distal intestine is brought to the surface. The location is chosen exactly as you would have chosen in case of an end ileostomy. The technique, there are 2 main techniques that are followed. One is the Turnbull technique at the Cleveland Clinic, where the site of intended loop ileostomy is chosen and orientating sutures are placed. So this proximal limb can be taken as 2 knots and the distal limb taken as 1 knot, or vice versa. But we have to remember that. And then we have to maintain that orientation during the entire course of preparation of the stoma. The opening in the abdominal wall is made. The loop of intestine is drawn through this abdominal opening by a tape placed through the mesenteric rent that we created in between. And in case of an obese patient, just like an end ileostomy, we have to create a pyramidal configuration of the facial opening. We have while we take out a loop through the abdomen, we can close the abdominal main incision, and during that time we have to make sure that the orientation of the ileostomy is maintained. The tape is replaced by a small plastic rod, which is then sutured in place. This suturing does not need to be a tight suturing. It is a loose fashioned suture that can be done with a thick suture material, just to keep the plastic rod in place. The loop of intestine is opened by making a 4/5 circumferential incision, and then we start suturing. The sutures are placed between the full thickness of the ileum, the seromuscular area at the base of the stoma, and the dermis. This is a case of the proximal stoma. And the distal stoma, where we don't have to take the seromuscular bite. We can just take the full thickness at the end, and then take the second bite at the dermis. The stoma should assume a spigot configuration supported by the rod. In certain surgeons prefer rotating the orientation so that the proximal stoma is at the base and the distal fistula is at the top, but that again is a surgeon's preference. The divided end loop method, popularized by the Abkarian and Prasad, it involves transecting the ileum with linear cutting stapler. The opening in the abdominal wall is made. While pulling through, the proximal component is excised. The stoma is constructed as an end ileostomy. The recessive limb has one corner of the staple line which is excised. The rest of it is intact. The full thickness of the ileum is sutured to dermis at the superior aspect of the stoma, while the small recessive limb that serves as a decompression is kept at the base. So these are the various stoma appliances that can be used. It can be a 2-piece ostomy bag, or it can be a single-piece ostomy bag. The 2-piece will have a separate skin barrier and a separate bag, while the single piece will have the entire thing in one place. While attaching the stoma, it has to be the site of attachment should be gently cleaned and dried, and then the filling paste has to be applied in the surrounding area. Then we have to cut the central hole of the skin barrier to match the diameter of the stoma. Then remove the sticker of the skin barrier and fix the skin barrier to the peristomal skin. And then after that, we'll fix the pouch. In post-operative care of ileostomy, we have to remember that the skin barrier component of the ileostomy device will require changing once in every 4 to 5 days. A well-constructed ileostomy should allow the patient to display normal vigor. They will be able to eat well, move around in normal and engage in normal activity.
Saurav,
There should not be any.
Saurav,
Yes, sir.
One sec. If you
Yes.
give a little gap between different bullet points, I can interrupt you.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. Because before this section,
Yes.
there are a few questions which we need to address. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Is there a separate consent for stoma required?
Yes, sir. In the preoperative phase, while taking the consent for surgery, we have to mention that a patient may require a stoma, and the stoma consent has to be taken separately.
No. What I mean is, perhaps the way I read it, suppose you have taken a consent for a proctocolectomy.
Yes, sir.
In the same consent form, can you also say you're going to have an end ileostomy, or should you have a separate consent?
So ideally, we should be having a separate consent, sir.
Yeah, I personally don't take it. We explain everything, and it'll include the same consent form will include the ileostomy also. Anybody else has any comments?
No,
That
sir.
stoma,
Yeah.
Ramesh, 1 minute.
Yeah.
The stoma is part of the procedure.
Yes.
I don't think it is separate consent is required, but
Correct.
clear explanation, and patients and relatives have to understand that there may be permanent stoma or temporary stoma.
Yeah, fair enough. That's what I follow as well. So there's another question. What is the attachment of the root of the mesentery? I can't understand this. Nishant, can you please unmute and explain this question?
No, sir. He was asking. He was describing the mobility of the ileum.
Yeah.
So from where to where is the root of the mesentery attached?
Oh, okay. It's an anatomy question.
Anatomy
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Sir, 1 second. It may be. I forgot actually, sir. I don't remember, sir.
All right. If I'll strain my memory.
Yes, sir.
It is the right sacroiliac joint to the transverse processor L2.
Correct, sir.
Thank you. All right. Okay. You say longitudinal, but the image shows cruciate incision on the fascia.
In the
So
procedure where he was
In the
describing,
procedure that you are describing,
Yes,
it
sir.
says it shows a cruciate incision, but you said it's a longitudinal incision.
So cruciate incision, as I told, it is preferred in cases of obese patients. It may not be always required, sir.
All right. Okay. That answers the question. Ravi asks, do you use a mesh prophylactically?
So no, sir.
No. That's also correct. But why does that question even arise, Saurav, in your mind? I mean, in anybody's mind. Why should it's a very valid question? Why should that question arise?
Sir, because the complication of any stomach in a delayed phase can be a parastomal hernia.
Correct.
So in that case, if we pre-address the situation by placing a mesh during the operative phase.
If you have an incidence of 2%, would you put a mesh? If you have an incidence of 15%, would you put a mesh? If it's an incidence of 30%, would you put a mesh? The question is, what is the incidence of...
Incidence. Okay.
That is the question you have to answer.
Sir.
Ravi, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think there is enough evidence in the literature to show that prophylactic measures are not required. And
Yeah.
as you said, where there is possibility that if your incidence is likely to be high, then in such situations you may want to do it. Or in patients where you've actually had a stomal prolapse already or a parastomal hernia, when you repair that, then in that situation you are well justified in putting a prophylactic mesh.
Yeah, my memory serves me right. There's a range of incidence of parastomal hernia. It is anywhere between 10 and 20%. Okay, generally. And so with that, it's not too high for us to put a prophylactic mesh. A careful closure, a snug closure around the stoma and where the bowel comes out should be adequate. It's another important question. Why should the stoma be everted? You have answered that, but I want you to repeat that answer.
So, sir, so that it forms a spout,
Yeah.
and the tip is well within the device, and it does not come in contact with the surrounding peristomal skin.
When the ileostomy effluent comes out, it should not
Yes.
be onto the skin. So you put your appliance very snugly around the ileal diameter. You make the hole appropriate to make sure that right next to that the gap completely sits snugly around the mucocutaneous junction. So when the fluid comes out, if you did not have a spout, then you would have the fluid going underneath the gap in the base plate of your appliance. So you can have skin problems. Whereas here, because there is a spout, the fluid comes out like a tap into the bag, and it has very little chance of coming in contact with the skin around the stoma. That is the answer. Next,
Yes.
in a loop ileostomy, which end of the ileum should be above? You
Sir,
answered that, but I want you to answer it again because I want to know if you understood clearly.
So the proximal loop should be above, and distal will be below, sir.
Yeah, you also mentioned it could be the other way around.
It can be other way. It can be
Correct.
other way around by
So-
putting a twist in the mesenteries.
Correct. So where it is doesn't matter because it is the proximal end, that is the functional end, that has to be spouted. And the other one is a mucus fistula, which is non-functioning. So it doesn't really matter very much where it is. Whether we should close the abdomen before the stoma maturation, if yes, why?
Sir, I didn't get that question, sir, actually.
You see, you actually mentioned it. You said you close the abdomen, the main abdomen,
Yes.
you have done a laparotomy.
Yes, sir.
Let us presume that it's a laparotomy and not a laparoscopy. Nowadays, you can have laparoscopy and you won't have a main wound also. But let us say
Yes.
it is a laparotomy. And it is recommended that you close the laparotomy wound and then fiddle around and finish your ileostomy. Finish your
Yes, sir.
ileostomy operation.
Yes, sir.
Why?
I don't know this answer, sir.
Let's get somebody else before I answer. Ajit.
I have no idea, sir.
All right.
Sir.
Is Janani, do you want to have a go?
Sir, to avoid infection, sir, we are
Which
closing the
infection?
laparotomy wound should not
Good.
be infected because
Good.
of.
That is the answer. All right. You must close the skin nicely. Otherwise, when the main laparotomy wound is open, when you're fiddling with the ileostomy, you can increase the chances of contamination. That is the answer. What is the advantage of Prasad method? Saurav,
I don't know this.
you don't know the answer. Mahesh, do you
No,
want to
sir.
take that?
I'm also not sure, so maybe it avoids makes the mucus fistula smaller.
Yeah.
That's the only advantage I can see in that. Actually.
That is true. That is true. I have never used the Prasad method. I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
What happens is that the overall ileostomy wound will be big when you have a loop ileostomy.
Yeah.
You add to that bigness the bridge. The bridge will make it even bigger. And fixing a plate can be a little cumbersome when you have a bridge in the classical one spout and the other ileostomy. Whereas a Prasad ileostomy does not have a bridge. It is just sutured at the level of the skin. And second, the opening is not the full diameter of the ileum,
Stoma. Yeah.
stoma. And so it has a smaller opening, and it helps with a smaller hole and better fitting of the appliance as well. Okay?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Go on, Saurav.
Yes. So the in postoperative management, the skin should remain normal. The appliance should not be leaking. When first constructed, the ileostomy output typically averages around 1500 ml per day of liquid effluent, which gradually, after the intestine starts adapting, it will come down to 500 to 800 ml per day. So while discussing about the complication of the stomas, the early complications that can arise is that the spout can become ischemic. So which can happen within first 12 to 24 hours. In those cases, what we have to do is that we have to reapproach the patient. We have to refashion the stoma, and until and unless a proper pink color spout is achieved. The second complication that may arise is a stoma can get retracted inside. The most common complication, however, in cases of in an ileostomy is an electrolyte imbalance, dehydration, and the dermatitis around the skin due to the effluent coming in contact with the skin. So in these cases, when a patient is dehydrated, we have to address the patient by giving adequate IV fluid and manage accordingly. The electrolyte imbalance should also be addressed accordingly. And the late complications that may arise is the stomach opening can get stenosed. There can be a prolapse of the stoma. There can be a parastomal herniation. There can be an obstruction as well. The obstruction may not be a proper full thickness obstruction. It can happen by simple thing like a food particle getting stuck. So in that case, what we can do is that we can flush the stoma by putting a Foley's catheter and flushing it. In most cases, the suspected blocking offending food particles will come out with the flush. And
Saurav,
yes, sir.
You talk about a stenosis, which is a narrowing, which is also an obstruction, but you mention an obstruction separately.
Yes,
what is the difference, if any?
Sir, in the obstruction in the second case which I mentioned, it is because of some food particles that is obstructing the outflow. Stenosis is narrowing that will happen. In that case, when we are putting this catheter, if we are flushing and it is a clean return that is coming, so in those cases we will suspect that it is not because of any fluid food particle. It is because of.
Would you expect solid food there causing obstruction? Ileostomy, you just mentioned, is a very liquid kind of feces.
Yes, sir.
Which
Sir,
large volume. So you wouldn't expect solid food to be coming out there and blocking. So so even if it is liquid, it is blocked for some reason. What is it? It's not bolus obstruction. It is not food obstruction. It is something else. What is it?
So could it be the mucus that is?
No, it is the kinks in the bowel. When you bring it out, you should bring it out in as straight a line as possible. If you have kinks and if you have not got your facial gap or facial defect matching your ileal diameter, you can have that causing a narrowing. You can have, apart from that, kinks deeper to the peritoneum or at the peritoneum. You can have bands between this loop that is coming out and adjacent loop of bowel. All these things can cause a narrowing or a kink, and food gets stuck there. So the primary reason for blockage is not the food, but there is some other underlying lesion. So the reason I'm raised that is that yes, you should definitely try flushing it out, but it is more than likely that in these cases it won't work because the underlying cause of a kink or a band will still be there. You should have that in mind, and that may need to be addressed by a repeat refashioning of the stoma if required. Please continue.
And so one of the as I told, the common complication associated with an ileostomy specifically is the peristomal dermatitis. This can be because of many reasons. Primarily, if the stoma is not constructed in a proper way. Secondly, if the stoma device is not attached properly, snugly around the stoma. So in those cases, because of the ileostomy nature of output, it can cause chemical dermatitis. It can be prevented by using a proper size stoma and pouch system. If the stoma, in cases where the skin has completely got destroyed, sometimes it may require split skin grafting for definitive management. And in cases where the stoma is repeatedly becoming dysfunctional and it is not maintaining attachment with the peristomal skin, we can sometimes use a special type of device where where there is an attachment with the mucosa of the stoma instead of the skin. So I don't know about this device particularly. It was mentioned in the book.
Yes. Okay, that's very uncommonly used. But before we go to that, there is another question. What is Cox continent ileostomy? I should have actually asked you to include a slide on that. I didn't. But what is it?
Sir, so it is a special type of ileostomy where we create a continent bowel inside. Instead of creating where the motions will get collected outside in the bag, we can create a special type of continent device with the intestine inside the abdomen, where most of the motions will get collected and it will come out slowly, sir.
Yeah, if you remember, I had asked a question on that in a Google Classroom.
Yes, sir.
You remember that? We had, yeah. And so what is the advantage of that?
I did read through it, sir, actually. I don't
Okay, Janani, can you answer me on that?
Sir, I'm not very sure, sir.
Yeah, you don't need a stoma.
Yes, no stoma bag is required, sir.
No stoma bag is required. And so how do you empty it?
By a catheter, sir, or whenever we want.
Correct. You put a Foley's or some other catheter into it and empty it from time to time. You create a valve by telescoping the bowel underneath before the stoma actually comes out onto the abdomen. And when you have that, you don't need the pouting that you classically describe with an ileostomy. There is no pouting that is required. Okay, what is the commonest complication of that procedure?
Pouchitis?
No. If you are doing it for familial polyposis, why would you get pouchitis? If you're doing it for IBD, maybe.
Probably the revision surgery is required.
When you're Mahesh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the commonest fear that people have is about ischemia. When you are creating that valve, parts of the bowel can actually become ischemic. And of course, the other fear is that it won't work. And then you're left with an incontinent Cox. And that is worse than an ileostomy. Mahesh, any other comments?
Yes, sir. There is an elevated revision rate in this procedure. If
Correct.
it fails,
Correct.
yeah, that is a fear and the problem which is there in this procedure.
Yeah.
Sir,
Okay.
Sir, one more point, sir. I think with our conventional stoma, there will be noises of flatus and that will be embarrassing for the patient. For this, it can be minimized.
Not sure about that, but you may be right. Yeah. Okay, go on.
And
Sir, can I just come in, sir? Regarding
Yes.
this Cox, I had one doubt.
Yeah.
Now, do we do this for bowel contents as well, or is it commonly done for urinary diversion, sir? With respect to Cox continent ileostomy, because putting in a Foley's catheter and taking it out every time, the food particle or whatever might get stuck. I have read it only for urinary diversion. That's the reason I'm asking.
No, it is described for bowel diversion also, but it is rarely done because of the complications of this procedure, as Mahesh himself mentioned, but it should be mentioned for the sake of completion. People must know that such a thing exists, but not commonly used.
Okay, thank you so much.
Right.
Yes. So,
sir,
yeah.
If I'm right, I think Nishan, what you do with the urostomy is not called a Cox continental pouch. It is just a loop of ileum that is where you implant both the ureters onto and then you bring it out as a stoma. I don't think there is any need or soon. I don't think they use it as a
Ravi,
reservoir.
no. Ravi, no. That is, they use a reservoir and very similar. Why very similar? The same technique as for bowel, even for urine. Because if you bring out a loop of ileum, even for urine, that will keep on leaking urine. So they will need a stoma. The idea of a continent stoma is not to use a bag. So the same telescoping and creation of a valve is done for urostomy also.
But then don't you feel that the urine will get absorbed through the mucosa and then cause problems?
No, that is one of the common things for anything, even a ureterosigmoidostomy.
Yeah.
So it's not a big problem. It is a problem, but not a big problem, and so they do it anyway. Yeah. The idea is to prevent a bag. That is the important thing.
Okay.
Yeah. To avoid a bag. Yeah. Go on, Saurav.
So other things that has to be kept in mind is that some patients may develop high output from the ileostomy because of some dietary infection, some intestinal infection, or the type of diet that they are taking, or if they are having a short bowel syndrome, or if there is a recurrence of inflammatory bowel disease. So in those cases, special care of maintenance of fluid and electrolyte has to be maintained. If in case of ileostomy that has been constructed in a proximal ileum or distal jejunum, so in those cases we have to also address micronutrient deficiencies such as vitamin B12, calcium, and iron absorption. And one rare complication that may arise is that a patient may develop parastomal fistulas, especially in cases of Crohn's disease, which is something rare, but it has all been mentioned in literatures. So coming to a jejunostomy, it is a surgical procedure by which a tube is inserted.
Saurav,
yes, sir. Sorry.
May I kindly interrupt you and stop you here? In fact,
yes,
for
sir.
two reasons. We are on nearly for an hour, and I think we should make it a habit to finish the session within an hour. Okay, and the second thing is, and I was expressing this to Abdul the other day, feeding jejunostomy and ileostomy have no relation to each other.
Yes, sir.
Somehow the two got included, and I was not aware of it. But anyway, we should discuss jejunostomy under the heading of access to GI tract for feeding.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we will kindly stop this talk here and include you can take that topic also and include whatever slides you have with that topic when we deal with it. GI access for feeding. And Mahesh's nice talk yesterday is a good impetus for us to have that topic also. We will do that.
Exactly.
But for now, can I please invite comments from all the teachers? Ramakrishna, any comments, sir?
Hello.
Good evening, sir. Really.
Well, sir. Is there a need for or indication for loperamide to decrease the output?
Yeah. Saurav, you want to take that?
No, sir, I don't know this answer.
Okay. Ajit?
No, sir. Actually, loperamide we don't advocate in our daily practice.
Not routinely, Ramakrishna. In fact, there was even an RCT that was conducted using loperamide versus no loperamide. The amount of reduction in the stoma output is marginal. And so generally you depend on replacement of lost fluids and manage. Very rarely they need something like a loperamide. Yes, Ravi.
So in patients with specifically with inflammatory bowel disease, short bowel syndrome, there is a role for loperamide and codeine sulfate in addition to high dose omeprazole or pantoprazole and to reduce the stoma output, but that is only a temporary measure. It's not a permanent measure.
That is only for IBD and short bowel, not for others.
Not for others,
Yeah. Another question is sometimes after surgery, this whatever bag we are applying keeps on coming out. Every day we have to change. The skin will get emaciated,
Macerated, yes,
inflamed and
inflamed, yeah.
macerated.
Yeah.
In such cases, how do you fit the bag?
Yeah. The
Sir,
yeah, you want to take it, Saurav?
yes, sir. Sir, the whole point was that we have to use a properly fitting bag. The reason why the bag will get disconnected frequently is if the site of the stoma is not been preoperatively determined and it is coming in the skin fold while the patient moves, the sticking moves away. Secondly, while applying the stoma, we have to make sure that the skin is dry, and we can apply a little bit of tincture benzoin so that the attachment is better. And thirdly, while cutting that stoma opening, we should see that the size is not too big, so that the leakage will not happen from the sides. It should snugly go around the ileostomy openings.
Yeah. That's good.
In spite of that, there will be dermatitis like oozing lesions.
Yes.
So on that, this gum will not take. It keeps on coming out.
Yeah. Sir, you will need the help of you'll need the help of an expert stoma therapist in that situation. May not be universally available, I understand that, but what you have to do is put zinc oxide to protect the skin. Second, use a stoma adhesive or Karaya. Karaya is actually a part of stoma adhesive, which is a proprietary powder. Put that powder very liberally on that thing, and then put this plate, put the Karaya plate onto that, and usually one gets away with it. The other reason is that you can't get optimal sticking of the plate onto the skin when the skin is inflamed. It means that you have to, and so the bag cannot be too full. So you will have to, in addition to all this, instruct the patient to empty the bag very, very frequently, in which case the weight will not be too much, and so the plate does not get detached. That is the idea, sir.
Okay.
All right. Any your comments about the talk?
So sometimes the bag will come with a belt type apparatus, sir, so that the patient can put the belt around the waist. In those cases, the coming off is much less.
Yeah, the belt is only, it can't hold it back, Saurav. It only sort of holds it in place. But if there is no good adhesion between the base plate and the skin, the belt really cannot prevent the detachment. Yeah.
Okay. Sir.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Shivram here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
See, while creating the stoma, where will exactly you bring out the stoma? Which muscle and where?
Sir, through the rectus abdominis, sir.
Okay.
It will be just below and lateral to the umbilicus, sir.
Okay, no, you have the rectus muscle. Will you bring it out in the middle, lateral part, medial part?
The central part, maybe, sir. I'm not 100% sure of this, sir. Hello.
This is a bearing for parasomnia. Yeah. Earlier it was told that you bring it out between 1/3 and 2/3, but
we can't hear you, Shivram. Shivram, please repeat, because we lost the audio for a bit.
So now we bring between midi, really.
Shivram, we lost your audio, so please
Can you hear now?
It's better now. Yeah, thank you. Just repeat what you said in the last 2 minutes.
Yes. Yeah. No, to prevent parastomal hernia, it's better to bring out the stoma.
Yeah.
In the middle of the rectus muscle, 50% to the left lateral side, 50% to the medial side.
Right.
Earlier, it was told 1/3 and 2/3. The hernias were quite high. So nowadays, people bring it out and don't cut the muscle. You have to split the muscle.
Split the muscle.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yeah. All right.
See, parastomal hernia can be up to 30 to 50%. This is one of the biggest problem of the all these stomas. So that's why a lot of, and another thing is we should not remove the fat, too much of it, subcutaneous fat.
Okay,
and post-operatively, we have to tell the patient they have to strengthen the muscle, exercise it, and also not to put on weight.
Wait.
Obesity is another problem where parastomal hernia rates can go up.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, sir.
That's
These are
right.
the things.
Yes. Yes. All right. Any other comments? Dr. Sridhar, are you there?
Otherwise, he did a good presentation. Nice
Yeah.
slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right. If there are no other comments, yes, I agree with it. Sir, a good comprehensive coverage of the topic. Good slides, good information.
Good presentation.
My only advice would be that you must have a few more original papers or reviews or things like that. Most of it was from Mangoes. I'm not
Yes, sir.
against Mangoes, but you should have had a few more references from papers. I had asked you to do one thing which you have not done. Perhaps you forgot. I said I would like some information, particularly for a defunctioning stoma, whether you're protecting a low anterior resection. Would you prefer an ileostomy or a colostomy? If so, why? And what is the evidence?
Okay, sir.
Do you know? You remember I had written to you to look it up. Did you look it up?
Okay.
No?
I missed it out.
You missed it.
I
No
missed it.
problem. Anybody else? Nishant, do you want to take that question? When you're decompressing, doing a protective stoma, would you give a colostomy or an ileostomy? I'll leave it with the students, Ravi. Let them. Nishant,
Yeah,
are you there?
yeah.
Have you switched off? You might have left. All right. Okay, Ravi, your call now. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Before you answer, why is this question even relevant, Saurabh? In other words, between an ileostomy and a colostomy, which would you normally prefer, and why?
Sir, ileostomy is more preferred because it is easier to maneuver and easier to bring to the surface of the abdomen.
It is just the opposite in my view. It is easy. It is easier to fashion a colostomy. No spouting, no nothing, no eversion. Just bring a loop out and stick it. So that's not the answer. Anything else?
I don't know.
Well, what about the effluent?
So electrolyte imbalance will be less in
Yes,
colostomy.
colostomy fluid output is less. If you do a sigmoid colostomy, for example, then the whole of the colon is there for you to absorb the water. Even a transverse colostomy, you have the ascending colon there; it absorbs the water. So water loss is less, electrolyte loss is less, and the fluid, the feces is more formed. It will be a little more solid than ileostomy, so it's easier to manage.
Easy to maintain.
And it is less irritant to the skin. You won't have this problem. So for all these reasons, colostomy is better. But why would you do an ileostomy at all? Ravi?
Sir, I think, for some reason, in the West, in the Europe and Americas, ileostomy is much more popular. And in India, somehow colostomy seems to be preferred.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is enough evidence to show one or the other is better. I'm not aware of that.
You're absolutely right. It is actually a surgeon's choice. And I have always been brought up to do a colostomy to cover the stoma, to cover an anastomosis. All right. But there are RCTs, I have read them. It is a toss-up. In terms of long-term complications, maintenance of the stoma, the complications are nearly the same. And so people say that it is much better to do an ileostomy. All right. But I have always preferred a colostomy. Shivaram, what do you do for your covering stoma?
We do routinely ileostomy.
Right.
See, the decompression of the not contents anything going into the colon will be a risk even if you do a colostomy, loop colostomy also, some amount will go to the distal part.
Yeah.
But if you have done a ileostomy and a small mucus fistula, decompression is much better.
Okay, that is one of the beliefs. Yes, that's true.
Yes. Yeah,
but in terms of the leak rate and its consequences, studies have shown that it is the same whether you do a colostomy or an ileostomy.
Correct. Yeah.
But it is, whether it's a cultural thing or not, but I have seen Indians seem to prefer colostomy and the West seems to prefer ileostomy.
All right. On that note, on that note, I thank all of you for participating. Well done, Saurabh, and good night to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good night.